objective is to get back with Andy. Whether that's romantically or something even maybe beyond that or less than that. She wants to get back with him. There's some closeness that she wants to reobtain with him. And the conflict, which I think you should always think about, because every scene, particularly in auditions, should have a conflict, even if it's just one character or you're doing a monologue. And I think the conflict here is that for Andy, let's just pretend for the sake of this audition, Andy has kind of moved on. The relationship that you guys had, it was nice while it lasted, but it ended, it kind of crushed him a little bit. So he's done all this to get out of that hole, this kind of depression that he was in. He gets his life together, gets his career together, and all of a sudden, Diane's back in the picture again, and she wants him back. And for him, it's the internal struggle. He did everything and got his life together basically because of you, but now he feels like he's successful in spite of you. And so there's a kind of what's the word I want to use here? For both of you, there's this kind of underlying animosity towards this also kind of longing to be together again.
Okay.
So you're playing to the fact that he doesn't really want this to happen because he knows it's not going to work, but at the same time you really want this to happen, even if you know it's not going to work.
Okay.
How do you see this character? What does she want out of Andy? What does Diane want out of Andy?
I think she wants him back. And, I think, this has probably happened in a lot of relationships where you send them on their way and then they fix all the crap that they had wrong with them.
Right.
And you're like, no, I put in all the time and now you're off being successful and I'm over here.
So why do you think that it was something that she wants him back, we see here, but later in she kind of also still hanging out hey, you still owe me. So why do you think that is? Is it she playing kind of both sides, perhaps? She wants him back, but it's if you don't come back, you still owe me money. Or maybe that fact that he kind of owes her is a guilt trip on him a little bit. I mean, how do you see this? Why is this the approach she's taking?
I saw it as, there's certain things when you have so much history with someone that you don't let go. And maybe if she was maybe if he owed her money, but they'd only been dating for a month, she probably wouldn't have brought it up. But since this is it sounds like there's a lot of history with these two, that it's just instinct to go back into that mode, even though she probably shouldn't if she does want him back. So it's a flaw, but that's kind of how I see it. Do you think that?
No, I think that's good. Yeah, I think that's really good. I definitely agree with that. Cool. Why was it just hit that, particularly when you're saying kind of sinking back into how it used to be? When that happens, it used to be a switch is gone on, yeah, we're back to the same arguments we always used to have, which I'm guessing was about money and his career choices. So as soon as you get to the point where you say, you want to get a real job, it should be you've already been dating again for months, and now you're about to shut wrong.
And then what would you say, opening up the scene, how, because I want to show some difference, so it's just not all the same. I kind of feel like it's kind of the same the whole way through. How would you for the Diane character?
I think for the Diane character, when she comes up, it should be, I don't want to use the word casual. I think you have just seen them. It's like seeing an old friend, even though there's a history. You haven't seen them in a while. They go up and they do something, and you're impressed. You like it, but there's been a lot of kind of time in between the last time you two have spoken. So it's you're friends or you have a history, but it's only in kind of the very basic sense of the term. And you want to be I'm cool with you, but there's still not something there. There's something, either it's just time or an awkwardness has happened. And so that's kind of the only way you can break the ice. To just kind of, as quickly as possible, pretend there's been no distance in time between the last time you spoke.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, because I think I was kind of I'm nervous off the get-go, but that makes sense. Let's play it off. We're such good friends, and then the awkwardness comes.
Right.
I think I'm just expecting him to shut me down.
Right.
That's a good point. good because even though it's like kind of specific to their relationship, it's still general in the sense of like this is a tale as old as time.
Yes.
You know, like this is not a new scenario.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure I maybe was Diane at some point in my life.
I think we all were Diane and Andy.
And Andy,
at some point in our
it's
lives.
like, I got my shit together.
Right.
Let's go.
And I think what's good about the scene is that you can play to the sympathies of both characters.
Yeah.
Because both of these people clearly have some flaws, but there had to be something good at some point for them to be together. Something attracted them to one another. So I would say play on that. Let the audience know that, like, you know, I don't think your character should come off as, like, her life is going terrible. I just think it's kind of like, hey, I'm the one who told you to get off your butt and go do this, and now you did, and I feel kind of responsible for that.
Yeah, and it's interesting because kind of some of the notes are giving, it makes her a little more likable, I think, like, but I gave you that idea and I was helping you and now you did it, hurrah, rather than like, naggy. Okay, Mike, you want to do it again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright, whenever you're ready.
Whose decision was it to do that song?
Mine. I'm solo now.
I know, they told me.
I decided to do something different.
I know. This me?
Yeah, sure.
You want to come over?
No.
Why not? What's the matter?
You put me in the street.
Andy, I only asked you to leave because you wouldn't get a job. I couldn't continue to support you.
It just turned out... I never asked you to support me.
It just turned out that way? Huh. Okay, so you couldn't get any singing gigs. You could have at least made an effort to get a real job.
I'm a singer.
You could have gotten a job anywhere. Popeye's Chicken, something.
I never asked you to support me.
I paid for everything. Okay, Andy, I had to ask you to leave because you know my father. How would it have looked to him?
You gave up on me, Diane. I have every intention of paying you back.
I don't want your money.
Yeah, you do.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
How much do I owe you?
$1,753.27, not including those leopard skin Speedos I bought you. I consider those a gift for myself. I still have them, you know.
So now you want me back.
You've got a job now, don't you?
Any man with a job?
You know that's not what I'm talking about. You didn't actually think I could go a week without you. In a script where they have action and you're in an audition situation, how do you handle that? Like, you know, in the it says she moves into him, he moves away. Like, there's a couple direction. Like, how would you handle that?
Well, I think that's based on your personal comfort level, and you know, you do have to try to read the room as best you can with the producers or casting directors or whoever's in the room. If they're having you do a scene with someone, as long as the action is like you moving closer, they move away, you turn your back to them, I would say do it. If it has anything to do with you picking up an object that's not there, avoid that like the plague, in my opinion, because then it's like, what am I holding? I'm holding a glass, and it's weird, and it makes it look corny. So avoid that. Focus on the lines. If the dialogue is going to push forward the performance or give more energy to you and whoever else is in that scene, even if it's just someone who's like the director reading the scene with you, go for it, because they will feel that energy with it. So it kind of depends on the scene. You got to make a judgment call on it. Generally speaking, stay with the script and just stay with the lines. Don't worry too much about action or movements, because then they have to play imagination land, and it might play against you. But that would be my advice.
Okay. So like especially at the with performance-wise, like, would you say, how is my movement? Was I moving too much? Was I not moving enough? Like, I just, I know a lot of people struggle with being in their body and moving too much sometimes, or not, or feeling really stiff because they're afraid to move. What would your advice be to?
Well, I mean, every director is going to be different, and everyone's going to take it a different way. If you're nervous, generally speaking, some people when they're nervous, they lock up, and then like they're just standing like this, or like they start moving around too much. I would say whatever makes you comfortable and is going to give you the confidence. If you feel more in the groove, moving around and being kinetic and, you know, following all these movement and actions, go for it. If you're someone who's like, I just want to focus on the lines and I want to do it, do it. So you have to know yourself as an actor, and that's only going to come with practice and time. For me personally, I just focus on, is this person giving me a good performance? Whatever they're doing. If they're moving around a lot, I will follow them. I'll see where they're going with it because it might add to the performance. If they're standing like this or sitting down, as long as I can hear their performance or artist's voice, it doesn't make a difference. And I think most directors or producers, or if they're are going to forget about the extra stuff and just focus on, is he or she delivering a good performance?
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. How important, like, is getting the dialogue exact to you? Or do you think to people, like, on the other side of the camera?
If the screenwriter's there in the auditions, they might be miffed if you mess up a bunch of lines. It's always a big red flag to me as a director if someone is intentionally improving lines. That's always a big no-no, because then that makes me feel like on set they're going to want to always improv. And particularly with drama, you can't do that. The lines are really directed on the path to build to something else. If you forget your line, improv. Add it in, fill in the base, but always try to keep the same context of what they're saying, the same concept. As long as it doesn't seem like you're going too all over the map, I don't think any director's really going to care that much. Just try to stay within the lines as much as possible. But if you slip up, it's an audition. You're not expected to know them 100% perfectly, but definitely look like you know the lines. Yeah.
So as long as you're making an honest effort to get as close to the dialogue as you can.
Yeah, I think you'll be fine. Don't improv. That is unless the director asks you to improv, do not improv. That is the fastest way for me to say no to someone in an audition.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It is. Someone spent a lot of time writing that script.
Right.
So someone disrespectful. Yeah, I kind of hate when people improv sometimes. But there's a flip side of that when someone improvs and you're like, whoa, that was really funny, or that was really great, or they were so in the moment and they just kept going with it. I think when people improv too much, though, it's like, why did I even write this script?
Right.
I think it's not being selfish when you improv.
No, I agree. And, particularly with comedy, I've seen some people improv in auditions and it's worked. Mm-hmm. But it's always been after they've shown me they can do the scene, how it's written. And I'm like, okay, will you do it again, blah, blah, blah. And then sometimes, particularly if I feel like there's going to be something else, I will say, forget about the script, just do the scene with the person. I had one audition where we had these two actors for a drama. These two actors acting in the scene together. And at one point, they were so busy looking at their scripts, and they were like, I don't know, what to do, and they were messing up. And I said, don't worry about the script, just get the scene right. Just get what the emotion, what do you two want out of this scene? And they did it, and it was great. I actually think they got all the lines right, but they just relaxed. Mm-hmm. And they improv'd a little bit, but it added to the scene. It wasn't lines that ended up being in the movie, but it made their performances stronger. So, respect the director, whoever's asking you to audition, but generally speaking, going off script is, they're going to be like, what? Where did that come from? Or they'll think you just don't know the lines, which is almost just as bad.
Well, I think, too, you probably have actors you work with that you trust them. I think it's a trust thing. You know that they're going to stay true to your story.
Right.
And you know what I mean? Because I think that's where, improv, it's you're not writing a new script. You're just keeping the same story going. You're just maybe putting it into your own words a little bit if that line's hard for you to get out. Or if you have an impulse to, give someone a hug. Or, you know what I mean? I think that's where it's okay, you're adding to the story. You're not, changing it.
No, I agree with that, too. And I think it's maybe not always something that you can do in audition unless you agree, you know the director and you know the writer or producer. But on set, that's a great talent to have. If you've done a few takes, you go to the director hey, I'm going to try something a little different. Most people say yes. You know, I usually say yes because I'm like, maybe they'll give me something good. Sometimes it does not work, and then sometimes they hit gold. Like because actors, they know I think a good actor knows the character better than even the writer and the director because they spend all their time with that character, and they might give you something that's amazing.
Yeah, and that's after they've put in all the work, and if it doesn't work, you just don't use that take.
Right,
but then they still
exactly.
feel good that they got to try it.
Right, it's like you can't blame them for trying.
Yep.
You're right.
Whose decision was it to do that song?
Mine. I'm solo now.
I know, they told me.
I decided to do something different.
I know. Miss me?
Yeah, sure.
You want to come over?
No.
Why not? What's the matter?
Put me on the street.
Andy, I only asked you to leave because you wouldn't get a job. I couldn't continue to support you.
I never asked you to support me.
It just turned out that way, huh? Okay, so you wouldn't get any singing gigs, but you could have at least made an effort to get a real job.
I'm a singer.
You could have gotten a job anywhere. Popeye's Chicken, I didn't care.
I never asked you to support me.
I paid for everything. Andy, I asked you to leave because you know my father. How would it have looked to him?
You gave up on me, Diane. I have every intention of paying you back.
I don't want your money.
Yeah, you do.
No, I don't.
You do.
No, I don't.
How much do I owe you?
$1,753.27. Not including those leopard skin Speedos, but I kind of consider those a gift for me. You can keep them.
So now you want me back?
You've got a job now, don't you?
Any man with a job.
You know that's not what I'm talking about. You don't actually think I could go a week without you?
Nice. Very good. I like that. That was good. That was really nice. Really good performance. Probably the best one I think you've done so far tonight with it. And, you know, like you said, I like the Diane character has become more likable as time goes on. And the notes I'm going to give right here are a little nitpicky, but I think they might add a little bit to your performance. When you get to the point where you're like, I don't care where you worked, because when Popeye's Chicken, it pops out a little too fast, like your explanation for like, I didn't really care. Think about it a little bit, like kind of chew on it a little bit, like, hey, no, I didn't care, it could have been anywhere. Popeye's Chicken, like you're trying to justify what you did to him in a way that would make him see it from your point of view. So, you know, be not necessarily soft on him, but just kind of like you're really trying to get him to see like he was in the wrong, not you.
I gotcha. Like it's not like I was like expecting him to be this like millionaire and take care of me. I just like anything. I just wanted you to contribute. Like you could have. I gotcha.
Right.
I gotcha. Just the intent's a little different.
Right. And the other little thing, and this is again a small stuff. When you say you want to come over, like put a little hint. You know, it's kind of like the whole like Netflix and chill. That's what really mean watch Netflix.
Want to come over?
Right, exactly. Put a little bit more in that like. It's like you're not just gonna come over and like we're not just gonna I don't know like catch up. Like I want to do more than catch up because you're really trying to entice him. But other than that, like this is good. I really like your performance here.
So what would you say? Like, what's the first thing I do, or any actor does when they get a scene? Like, what would be the first couple steps, I guess, to breaking it down?
Well, obviously, first read the scene. Then what I would do is I would take a pen or whatever, write some notes, however you need to do to remember it, and start figuring out the three basic questions of who is my character, who is my character in relation to whoever you're talking to or whatever you're facing, and what's the conflict. Those three things should always be like if you get those three things down, everything else is going to kind of fall into place. If it's a scene where you're not talking to someone, well, is this man or woman versus like nature versus self versus God? Like what is the crux of this? And I would also say when you get it, try your best. I know some actors don't like watching themselves on camera. Particularly when you're starting out, I would try to record yourself doing the audition. It's so easy to do now. You can do it on your phone, your computer. See just not necessarily what your face looks like, but just do you look natural? Do you look like you're knowing the lines? Practice. Obviously, what you see in a camera of recording in your living room is not going to be what the director sees. You're going to give a different kind of energy to it when you're sitting there like, blah, blah. But just try to like test yourself and try to see how's the sound, what are you doing. Those are all different things you can do when you first get aside. But the most important thing is just understanding the character in the scene as best as humanly possible. Because if you know the character, it's going to show in the audition. Even if it's not the character the director or the writer had in mind, if you know what your character is that you're performing, it's going to make your performance stronger.
Okay. And then, like, one of the notes you gave me was to be kind of a little more seductive on that one line. What if that is particularly hard for me as Christina to do? Like, what would you recommend when you know you have to do something for your character?
Have a drink.
Yeah, true.
Have a drink, take a hit of this.
No, but it's true. That's a good question. Like, if you're not comfortable, like you're like, I don't know how to be deceptive. Well, if that's the case, make another choice. If someone's saying be seductive, say, can I do another choice? Or maybe just say, take it in your own way, another choice. There's a lot of different ways to be magnetic or alluring without being seductive. You're trying to get into your place, maybe instead of being seductive, you're inviting. You know, it's like me asking one of my buddies to come over and watch a game. I'm not trying to seduce him into watching the football game, but I'm trying to get him to come over, like, hey man, you know, we're going to have beers, and like, you know, it's all in the house, pitch to him, come on over. And so make another choice, but that's someone that's still like a synonym of that emotion or anything. And generally speaking, so a director should never ask you to play an emotion. They should always ask you to get to an objective, to play a motivation, or to raise the stakes. Your job can be to take any of those emotions to get you to that objective. So instead of saying, be seductive, like I said, like you're trying to get him, there's going to be more than just hanging out and catching up. You want to do more than catch up. But that can be anything. You can play that seductively, you can play that kind of in a overly friendly, or maybe overly affectionate. So it's your call on that. How do you want to play that emotion? Or how do you want to play that adjective? You know, you could tell someone, all right, your job is to punch this person, but someone might punch someone like 18 different ways and for 18 different reasons. So just kind of play on that.
Okay, yeah, and I mean, you know, however, as long you're right, I think it's just I really want him to come over, so really convincing him, and he's going to know what that means.
Right,
unless, you know.
You want to come over?
It's Pound Town.
And again, know the scene, know the character. Maybe for Andy, you know, going over to have sex is not what's going to get him to come over. Maybe coming over to listen to music is his character's weakness, or coming over to like eat some of your famous lasagna is like the best thing. It doesn't really matter. In your mind, you can make it whatever it is that you want. It will show up in the performance if you commit to it. Like, I'm going to come over, and it could be, you may want him to come over just because you're like, oh man, I need to move this couch, and he's the only strong guy I know. And in your mind, this whole conversation is him to come over and move your couch. You don't need to know, he doesn't need to know that. No one needs to know that except for you, because it'll show up in your performance, and it'll be a strong commitment.
Yeah, no, I like that. As long as it's like, really want him to do something.
You really want him to do it.
Do you think it's important when you get a script and, like, you know, obviously actors don't have the whole script, sometimes you just have the sides, to just look at those sides and okay, this is what I want this scene and that's it, and boom? Or do you think it's important to, like, look at the overall story and the purpose this character's serving and the overall story to make your choices? Or do you think that doesn't necessarily matter in an audition situation?
I don't think it's a requirement to know the whole story. I definitely know the scene, always know the scene. But if you can, I would say try to think what's happening outside of the scene. What's leading up to the scene? What's going to happen after the scene? As best as possible. Don't go too far down the rabbit hole, but try to have a general sense of like what's leading up to this, because I think it'll give you a better sense of the character. I had an actress who came in one time, and she got a call back, but barely got a call back. In her first round of auditions, her character seemed flat. But she came back later, and she clearly had thought about what she wanted the character to do. And we also, not all directors do this, but generally they do. We gave some brief explanation of the character in the sides. Like, this character is such and such, 23, blah, blah, blah. But she came in, and she had a very clear picture of who this character was. And she was able to recite, like, this character is this character. And even though it wasn't 100% how I, as a director, saw it, it was the most clear vision someone had of the character. And it was something that I knew she could, tackle. So she got the part. Because even though I could modify it a little bit, I already knew she had something going.
Yeah, and a lot of times I think it's like that specificity that brings out a scene, like knowing that this is a trigger thing to talk about the money, or that she's keeping a tally, and all those things. The more specific you get, I feel like a lot of times it all comes through way better, and then it's a real relationship.
Right. Because then it's like because the director is going to make modifications. The script usually isn't even finished. Or they still might have one small rewrite by the time you actually start shooting. I always love doing script readings with actors when I'm doing big projects, because the actors will start to say things I think my character should do this. We had an actress one time, the character was written to be in Oklahoma. She said, can we make my character from Alabama, because that's where I'm from and I can do that accent. It's a small change, but it made a big difference in her performance. So I'd say just keep track of that. Know that, and just know your character however you're deciding to perform it. And then they can make modifications when they shoot. I know that you said that she's a skater, but we're going to decide that she actually is a cook or a chef. But that's neither here or there. Your performance is all that's going to matter and get you the job.
Yeah.
My name's Mike, and I'm reading for Andy.
Whose decision was it to do that song?
Mine. Solo now.
I know, they told me.
Yeah, I decided to do something different.
I know. Miss me?
Yeah, I guess.
You want to come over?
No.
Why not? What's the matter?
Do me on the street.
Andy, I only asked you to leave because you wouldn't get a job. I couldn't continue to support you.
I never asked you to support me.
It just turned out that way, huh? Okay, so you couldn't get any singing gigs. You could have at least made an effort to get a real job.
I'm a singer.
You could have gotten a job anywhere. Popeye's Chicken, something.
Look, I never asked you to support me.
I paid for everything. Andy, I had to ask you to leave. You know my father, how would it have looked?
You gave up on me. Look, I had every intention of paying you back.
I don't want your money.
Yeah, you do.
No, I don't.
Yeah, you do.
No, I don't.
Fine, how much do I owe you?
$1,753.47. Not including those leopard skin Speedos I bought you. I consider those a gift for myself. I still have them,
So now you want me back?
Got a job, don't you?
Anybody want a job?
You know that's not what I'm talking about. You didn't actually think I could go a week without you.
Good. Good. So my question for you is, what does your character want out of this scene? What is his objective?
Reading it now out loud, I think it's always different when you read it with somebody else, when you just read it by yourself. But I think he really wants her back. I think he wants her to support him. Mm. I think he's just kind of playing hard to get. That's kind of how I took it.
I like that. All right, so let's go with that. So you want her to take you back because she's loaded and she can support you and you can still keep doing your music.
Yeah.
Maybe you also feel like with your music, you're finally hitting a curve. You're kind of at an apex where you can hit the curve, but money's tight still, and this is a chance for you to look successful enough, but still have her kind of support you.
Yeah, that's good.
I don't want to use the word that you're trying to trick her, but you see that this could be a good opportunity for you.
Yeah, I started thinking of something after, as I was saying, I decided to do something different. I was thinking to myself, you know what, I bet this dude probably said that or sang that song knowing that she was there, knowing that it's going to make her start thinking about him again, and then it's going to be easy to pay up. So, but yeah. So yeah, that was my objective, just to get her to support me.
Let's go with it. I like that. So I would say a couple points to hit if you're going to go with that objective is when she starts bringing up like the fact that she like supported you and paid your money. Your character should be trying to say like, oh yeah, I can do this. Like, no, I can pay you back because I'm on my feet now. But you're not quite as on solid ground as she realizes, so kind of play it up that you really are trying to compensate for the fact that like this is your chance to make it seem like you've made it.
Okay. And do you think Andy wants to give her the impression that he wants her back a little bit?
Oh, enough to keep teasing. Rope her along, but don't give her the bait quite yet. Yeah, she's just like, oh, okay, yeah, come here, and then eventually, when it's at a point where her guard will be enough down that she'll agree to basically take you back, and her guard will be down so much that she'll be willing to pay. That's when you're striking.
Okay.
That's when your character is going for. Like, I don't want her to just take me back, and then I have to actually own up to this image that she now thinks that I am. I want her to take me back enough that she'll think, no, but he'll get it together.
Make it her fault.
Right.
Okay.
Whose decision was it to do that song?
Mine. I'm solo now.
I know. They told me.
So, yeah, I just try to do something different.
I know. Miss me?
Yeah, I mean, a little.
You want to come over?
No.
Why not? What's the matter?
Andy threw me on the street.
Andy, I couldn't. I only asked you to leave because you wouldn't get a job. I couldn't continue to support you.
Look, I never asked you to support me.
It just turned out that way, huh?
Look.
So you couldn't get any other singing gigs. You could have at least made an effort to get a real job.
I'm a singer.
You could have gotten a job anywhere. Popeye's chicken, something.
I never asked you to support me.
I paid for everything. Andy, I had to ask you to leave. You know my father. How would it have looked?
You know what? You gave up on me. And I had every intention of paying you back.
I don't want your money.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
Yeah, you do.
No, I don't.
Look, how much do I owe you?
$1,753.47, not including those leopard skin speedos I bought you. I considered those a gift for myself. I still have them, you know.
So, you want me back?
You've got a job, don't you?
Any man with a job.
You know that's not what I'm talking about. I didn't actually think I could go a week without you.
Good. Okay. So, one thing I would say for this, I love the commitment you're making to the character. There's a few key moments I think where you can use it because, especially with an audition, you want to find those moments where you can really give them something that's going to make it stand out. Sometimes people go overboard and that doesn't play well for them. But for instance, when the part where she's talking about, I still have those leopard skin Speedos. Like, if you're trying to string her along, that's the moment where you're like, yeah, the good old days kind of thing. Like, yeah, like you remember the time you've had together. And so give her that little, like, glimmer of, like, oh, okay, there's still something there in that moment. And I liked what you did when she was talking about exactly how much you owed her, because you kind of did one of those, like, oh, crap, was it that much? was it that much that I owed her? Another moment I think you could really get for her is, like, any man with a job. That should be, you kind of hit it there. I would say just even raise the stakes a little bit more.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. So where it says a joke, it says Andy doesn't see the humor. So is he supposed to be, like, because he says it out loud to her.
Right.
So is it one of those things where he's, like, confused, like he's kind of, like, asking her? It's like, so it doesn't really matter if it's me, it's just anybody?
Right. You're trying to guilt trip her basically into saying, like, hey, she was like, oh, so you're pretty much just like, if he's got a job, he's good enough. Like, and it's a joke, but it's a mean joke. Because you want her to feel bad about it. She's trying to make you feel bad, and so you're trying to make her feel bad right there at the end. And that's like where you can kind of put a knife in the side there.
Okay.
So really go for that. Don't be like outright mean, but mean enough.
Okay. And then this, would you say this is more like a comedy? Like a sitcom type thing, or more like a like a feature type.
You know, reading it, it doesn't seem like it's a sitcom. It doesn't read like one because the characters are all making decisions that a sitcom would generally avoid. I feel
Yeah.
like if they're going to get back together or not. It does feel like this is more of a character study. So it seems like a feature. It can be played either way, though.
Yeah.
I feel like most scripts can.
Yeah, you can tell it's kind of because there's no direction, like stage direction kind of stuff.
Right. It doesn't feel like it's building towards a big joke. It feels like more like it's dissecting what makes these characters tick, and they're playing off of each other.
Cool.
Sorry. Whose decision was it? Decision's a really hard word to say for me. I'm like, decision. Alright. Whose decision was it to do that song?
Mine. Solo now.
I know, they told me.
Yeah, I just want to do something different.
I know. Miss me?
Yeah. You know.
You want to come over?
Nah.
Why not? What's the matter?
Andy threw me on the street.
Andy, I only asked you to leave because you wouldn't get a job. I couldn't continue to support you.
But I never asked you to support me.
It just turned out that way. Okay, so you couldn't get any singing gigs. You could have at least made an effort to get a real job.
I am a singer.
You could have gotten a job anywhere. Popeye's Chicken, something.
I never asked you to support me.
I paid for everything. Andy, I had to ask you to leave. You know my father. How would it have looked?
You gave up on me. And I never asked you to support me. I was totally going to pay you back.
I don't want your money.
Yeah, you do.
No, I don't.
Yeah, you do.
No, I don't.
How much do I owe you?
$1,753.37, not including those Speedos I bought you.
Huh.
I considered those a gift for myself. I still have them, you know.
So now you want me back, huh?
You got a job, don't you?
Any man with a job, huh?
You know that's not what I'm talking about. You didn't actually think I could go a week without you?
Nice. I liked it. I like the way you especially played it early on when she's kind of talking like, oh yeah, you really played the more like I'm a big shot now, or like I'm close to being a big shot, and that worked very well for the character. I would say just keep that straight. You're hitting all the right notes. I would say just accentuate some of them again at the end when you're like any man for job. That like really try to get underneath the skin with that one. And when you say so now you want me back, kind of this is like you're saying you're basically calling it out. Like right now she's playing some kind of subtle undertones. You're pretty much bringing it into the open. Like so now you want me back. Like this is more than just you want me over for the night. You want me over all the time.
Yeah.
So call her out on that.
Okay.
But in a nice way. Right.
Cool.
Followed up immediately by your like any man for job, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Then she has something to prove.
Yeah.
Then she has something to prove. Like, oh no, it's not because you have a job. It's because I like you.
And anything like if you had to nitpick it, and like just you can't find anything good with this. So what if you had to nitpick it?
If there's anything I want to nitpick, just be careful. There's a line where you're saying, "I never asked you to support." It's the second time, and it's the script has you say it 2 times, and so you kind of have to. You need to make sure that they sound very different. The first time you say, "I never asked you to support me," it's good because it's very casual. It's kind of like, look, that's in the past. The second time after you said you could have got a job at Popeye's Chicken, I never asked you to support me. There should be some. It wasn't one of your proudest moments when she was supporting you.
Okay.
Like, or at least you want her to feel that way. You definitely should. That should come off more. It's personal. That's like really defensive. Like how much are you going to bring that up? Like, I never asked you to support me. Like, that's okay. I get it. Jeez, why do you have to keep bringing it up?
Okay.
Like, kind of thing. So add a little bit more to that. Since it's the same line, you really should like distinguish the two.
Okay. I'll say it again. Mike reading for Andy.
Whose decision was it to do that song?
It's mine. Solo now.
I know that you told me.
Yeah, I want to do something different.
I know. It's me.
Yeah.
You want to come over?
No.
Why not? What's the matter?
Hey, threw me on the street.
Andy, I only asked you to leave because you wouldn't get a job. I couldn't continue to support you.
I never asked you to support me.
It just turned out that way. So, you couldn't get any singing gigs. You could have at least made an effort to get a real job.
I'm a singer.
You could have gotten a job anywhere. Popeye's Chicken, something.
I never asked you to support me.
I paid for everything. Andy, I had to ask you to leave. You know my father, how would that have looked?
You gave up on me, Diane. Look, I had every intention of paying you back.
I don't want your money.
Yeah, you do.
No, I don't.
Yeah, you do.
No, I don't.
How much do I owe you?
$1,753.47. Not including those leopard skin Speedos I bought you.
Mm-hmm.
I consider those a gift from me. I still have them, you know.
So, now you want me back?
Got a job, don't you?
I made it with a job, huh?
You know.
But personality-wise, I definitely think the most important thing is that we know immediately that this person is selfish, but not necessarily malicious. Like, I don't think that this person should be completely unlikable.
Mm-hmm.
Just someone who is problematic, to say the least. As is Diane.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're both problematic characters. If I'm going to base on the script, these two are the main people, the main driving force. And so you have to like spending time with them to a certain degree, even if they're heavily flawed. She's definitely someone who is maybe not petty, but certainly not going to let things go. I mean, she knows how much this guy owes her down to 27 cents. So she seems like someone who could be a long day. If, like, she will remember everything you do wrong and everything you mess up. Your character seems a little bit more, whatever, I'm going to flow through and through. Well, let's go. Like, I just want to, like, make my music and do that. So, you know.
If you were directing this, what choice would you make Andy to want? Like, what's the end result for these? Like, let's say this were a feature, and let's say really this page 65 would be feature. Do you see, what is the objective, like, overall objective of Andy?
I think Andy's overall objective would be to become a successful musician, but I think on a personal thing, it's because he needs a constant need to feel validated and to feel like he is moving forward. He's being a success, even if he's not necessarily willing to put in the time and the effort to be a success. He wants the gratification of being a success. So I would say that's probably what he wants. Diane is someone who can give him gratification. Music, crowds, they all give him this sense of, like, accomplishment.
I like that. It makes the line where it says, I'm a singer, mean that much more when you say the end result is, and it doesn't matter, like, how much he suffers. Like, that's who he is.
Mm-hmm. He, somewhere along the line, singing gave him a personal fulfillment, and now he's just locked into that. And there is no Popeye's Chicken, because there's nothing there for him. Well, the first notes are, you guys definitely know your characters. And as the takes went on and the tries went on, you became more and more comfortable with who your characters were and what your performance was supposed to be. You had clear objectives and clear motivations, and those expanded as you went along. I mean, it's never going to be perfect the first few times you do it, because your characters you're still kind of getting used to the characters as a scene, and you're going to find different caveats to grab onto every time you perform the scene. No two takes are ever the same, so I thought you guys did a really good job with your performances. Always, of course, like, keep in mind, and that's not to say that you guys didn't do this, but just always keep in mind to, like, listen to what the other actor is doing, because they might perform, you might have done that line the same way 10 times, and all of a sudden they do it in a slightly different way. Listen to really how they're performing that line and respond to it. You should always be responding to it. It's like, that old expression, it's not the word, like 90% of it is actually how you say it, not what you actually said. Just kind of keep that in mind. other little general notes to be is like if you ever get stuck, just keep going, just keep climbing through. It's like pauses if they go on too long. It's like if you're not making a character choice with that pause, then it looks weird, especially to a casting director. But you guys did a really good job with that tonight.
Yeah, I felt like probably maybe your last take. I was like, I'm listening. You know, I'm obviously off camera, just being the reader or whatever. But it felt like the most engaged, the two of us. I think, which is probably what you're trying to accomplish. Is just that relationship between those two people.
Yeah, what's the first thing you look for, like when someone's reading for you? Is there anything that like stands out? Like I know this one casting director, he always looks for. He'll tell people just to put the page down. And he's like, all right, you kind of know what's going on. Just say it however you say, because they want to see how he wants to see how your body moves to see if you can tell a story like through tell perform a narrative without any kind of words. It's just expression to see if he understands what's going on without you saying anything.
Well, that's a good way to do it. I like that approach. My personal approach whenever I'm directing or producing a movie is I always like to give them something completely different. Even if they're playing like the most sadistic villain ever, and their motivation is to just have pure like hate and malice in their words, I will tell them, now I want you to perform that scene like you actually like this guy, and you don't want to kill him, but you're gonna kill him anyway. Like try to give them something that is as different as possible from what they just did. Even though, and some people say, well, that's not fair, and they're not going to do the character like that. But for me, it's can they take direction? I don't care if they don't have to nail it. I have to be able to see that it's different. Well, I'll see a lot of times with actors who are just starting out or very casual about their acting career is that I will get the same scene 5 times. Like I'll tell them, I want it this way, and it'll just be the exact same words. Because they haven't really learned the character, and they haven't learned how to make their character different. They're trying so hard, so just get the lines right, and play it a certain way that they don't give you anything different. And that's always, because something could change. Yeah. In the scene, when they're acting with the actors, it could be a scene that was originally supposed to be kind of sad, then we might make it funny. And they have to be able to know that and be able to play that as best as humanly possible within reason. So that's what I look for. Can they play off of can they change when it gets changed up?
A couple. I think this came up with this particular scene a couple times is making Andy likable and making Diane likable, because I think that the scene, if you just look at it, is like flat, like one-dimensional. They could be not likable at all.
Right.
So would you say it's important to always make the character likable, like even if it's a serial killer? Like, what would your advice be with that? Or is it sometimes you just need a character that's not likable at all?
Well, I mean, likable is a good word to use. I'd also say just compelling. Do I want to know more about this character? Whether that means they're likable or maybe they're not likable, but there's something very, like, why are they not likable? Like, why do I hate this person so much? I mean, the best villains, they're not necessarily likable characters, but you want to know what makes them tick. You want to know what they're going to do next. You're intrigued by them. So I would say that's something to always keep in mind. Like, what can I do to make my character compelling? If you're just the person who's dropping off the paper to the main character, you should still make that mailman compelling. Like, this mailman's been that. Like, someone should see you and be like, that's been his mailman for 20 years. And, like, that's it. That may be your only thing, but that's it. And you walk away. But everything should always feel interesting, that there's history to whatever you're saying.
I love that. That's such a great, compelling. Like, you want to know more. Like, I love
yeah, because if you don't, then what's the point of...
Yeah, then no one...
there,
we're
right?
going to, stop watching.
Right. You're like, well, okay. Like, don't you... I hate movies where, like, the characters have to say, like, we've been friends for 10 years. Like, because you don't believe it. Like, there's nothing, like, just like, I can't believe these people have been friends for 10 minutes. Like, I feel like movies, like, they add that in whenever, like, the characters aren't... Like, they're just so flat that there's nothing else to add to. You have to tell the audience everything about them.
Yeah. That's good. I like that.
Do you have anything else?
I don't think so. Well, I know, like, a lot of times with scenes, sometimes people get bent out of shape about, like, showing, like, it's one note a lot, you know? Right. I think, like, a lot of first reads are one note. So, would you, like, what would your advice be for that? Like, do you have any, like...
Like how to not make it
Like how to
one
not make it one note right out of the gate, or is it just something that?
Well, it depends on the scene, depends on the character you're doing. Maybe the scene is kind of more of a one note thing. I mean, this really should never. That's a terrible side if you're only given one note to work with. But any director worth his or her salt should give you more than one stab at the line. That being said, don't try to do too much. Particularly on film, if they're going to be looking back on this on their camera. Any choice you make is really going to show up. In person, it may actually not show up as much. But if you're trying to really push something on camera, it's going to feel so much more magnified. So I would say if you don't want it to be one note, just do 1.5 notes. Don't try to go for oh, well, she's angry, but I'm also going to make her sad, at the same time. So I'm going to add her screaming, but also crying at the same time. Don't go for that. Say well, she's very upset at her husband, and I'm going to add in, but it's more than she's upset at her husband. She's also upset at her job and her kids and, her neighbor. So just adding that a little bit. Don't try to do too much, because then it's gonna be too wild of a performance, I think. Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense, and so I guess knowing the medium is important then.
Yes.
Whether it's film, TV, drama, comedy, obviously.
Right.
Would you say that that's important to know?
Oh yeah, very important to know. You should always ask if they don't tell you, what's the genre? Is this a film? Is this for theater? What is this? Not that he will be quoted all the time when it comes to acting, but I do think there was I'm not sure word for word, but John Cena, the WWE wrestler, actually had one of the best analogies because he was on about, someone asked him, what's the difference between acting in the ring when you're doing wrestling and a movie? He said, when you're in the ring, most people who are watching you can't really see your face. They can't see your face. So everything has to be big. And this is the same for theater. Everything has to be big. When you're on stage, the people in the cheap seats still need to be able to tell how you're feeling. So you have to kind of overplay everything. When you're in film, if your character is talking to someone and they don't want this character to know that they have a crush on this character, if their lip turns a little bit into a smile, everyone's gonna be oh, did you see that? Oh, he likes her. He's trying not to show that he likes her. They're gonna pick up on every little detail. So you should know that, because then you know if okay, I can play this a little bit more big, or no, keep it more levels, keep it within the range of the emotions that characters can give.
Cool. I think that's a good one.
Cool.
So great. So apply these notes for next week when you're recording for YouTube. Obviously, especially on camera when you two are going back and forth, it's going to really play off your chemistry. So just make sure, again, to listen to each other, know your notes. Try to read these notes and apply them as best you can. But at the end, it's got to be what's comfortable for you and what you think is going to work best for your level of performance. Just play off each other. Don't be afraid to take a few breaks.